Molly collapsed. Is she okay? I don't know. The school teacher mentioned she fainted during swim class. My daughter Molly had a hyperventilation episode at school and was rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, Molly was peacefully asleep. Seeing her serene face, I breathed a sigh of relief. Sarah, how's Molly? Is she all right? My husband John arrived hastily upon hearing the news. She's resting. You can relax, the doctor replied, though his expression remained solemn. Doctor, please tell us what happened, I urged, almost scolding him. He seemed to gather himself and asked, How is Molly's relationship with her grandparents? Why are you asking about that? I queried, taken aback. I'm interested in how well she gets along with them, the doctor reiterated, leaving me at a loss for words. Doctor, stop insulting my parents, John interjected, his anger evident. His veins bulged on his forehead, reflecting his emotions. What's gotten into you? I was surprised by John's uncharacteristic outburst, as he usually kept his feelings in check. Let me explain, the doctor continued. As a mother, I braced myself for the grim truth that followed. My name is Sarah Wilson, a 42-year-old office worker. I live with my husband John, who also works in an office, our elementary school-aged daughter Molly, and my in-laws, making us a household of 5. Originally, we lived separately from my in-laws. Despite our good incomes, John and I often had late nights due to our demanding jobs. John, in a management role, was particularly career-focused, striving for success even at home. This work-oriented lifestyle often left Molly feeling lonely. Concerned for her well-being, I sighed during a conversation with John. It was then that he made a suggestion. Sarah, would you consider moving in with my parents? They've been suggesting it for a while now. John's father, Michael, had been a distinguished employee at a major trading company for many years. Elizabeth, John's mother, was a respected educator who taught at a prestigious middle school until John was born. However, Michael had to retire early a few years ago due to worsening chronic illness. Elizabeth transitioned from being a stay-at-home mother to working part-time after Michael's retirement. My husband and I had been sending a fixed amount of money to support his parents every month. I've been thinking about renovating the family home into a duplex style, John mentioned one evening. I think it's a great opportunity. Yeah, living in a house with a yard would be better for Molly than our current apartment. Molly's school would benefit from being surrounded by nature rather than in an urban area. We discussed this every night after Molly had gone to bed, and then relayed our decisions to Elizabeth over the phone. We've come to a decision. What do you think, Elizabeth? We would love that. Honestly, we were hoping to suggest living together. Hearing this from you makes me happy and relieved. With that, our plans to live together smoothly progressed. We renovated the in-laws' house, designating the first floor for them and the second floor for our family's living space. We didn't install locked doors between the spaces to ensure easy access when needed, but we respect each other's privacy. I had hoped that Molly wouldn't feel lonely anymore, especially since my husband and I often came home late from work. She could now have dinner with her grandparents on the first floor. Yet, every morning when I left for work, I couldn't help but feel guilty towards my in-laws. Thank you so much for taking care of Molly while John and I are at work. The in-laws always assisted Molly with her homework. No problem at all, Sarah. Molly is our dear granddaughter. Don't worry about it, Michael assured me with a hearty laugh. Molly, be sure to listen to Grandma and be a good girl. Okay, I'm off. Thank you in advance. Having my in-laws as allies made me feel more confident about work than ever before. 3 months had passed since we started living together. On that particular day, I finished work early and arrived home sooner than usual. Molly ran up to me in tears and hugged me. What's wrong, Molly? Why are you crying? I asked gently as Molly clung to me, refusing to look up. Elizabeth followed closely behind, trying to soothe the situation. It seems Molly is just overwhelmed with happiness to see her mom, she offered, attempting to stroke Molly's head. But Molly shook her head vehemently, clearly showing her displeasure. Elizabeth smiled sadly. Molly, that's not okay. Grandma always helps you with your homework. It's hurtful for Grandma if you act this way, I explained gently. She's probably just at an age where she wants to be spoiled by her parents, right, Molly? I'm sorry if I made you feel bad, Elizabeth said with a compassionate smile. It's okay, I don't mind, Elizabeth assured, still wearing a gentle smile. Molly was doing so well with her studies until just now. She's a smart girl. Again, Elizabeth tried to pat Molly's head, but Molly fiercely shook her head in refusal. Molly, Mommy will be upset. Please apologize to Grandma, I insisted, prompting Molly to reluctantly turn to Elizabeth and mutter a trembling, Sorry, Grandma. Normally, Molly seemed very attached to her grandparents, so initially I chalked it up to her simply wanting to play instead of studying. It's me who should apologize, Molly, I mused aloud. I thought I saw tears glistening in Elizabeth's eyes, but she quickly brushed it off, laughing lightly and saying, Oh, just something in my eye. As days passed, I began to notice that Molly's behavior was becoming increasingly unusual, not just Elizabeth's. While Molly had always been independent and enjoyed playing alone even before we moved in with her grandparents, she had never clung to me and cried like that before. Moreover, she displayed an unexpected attitude towards her loving grandmother, who had always showered her with affection. Perhaps Molly was grappling with troubles that we adults couldn't fully comprehend. As bedtime came, I discussed it with John. What if I take off from my work? I could spend more time with Molly. She might not feel so lonely. Why are you saying this? Didn't we discuss this many times and decided my parents are taking care of Molly, so there's no need to worry? I know, but even if your parents are there, they can't replace Molly's mother? Are you saying my parents aren't good enough? John frowned and glared at me. John often gave me that look when he didn't like something. I'm not suggesting that. It's just... Anyway, we should entrust Molly's care to my parents, he insisted, turning away from me as if to wrap up the conversation, and dozed off. Winter arrived, and my hectic work schedule finally eased up. I'll handle the dishes, you relax. Oh, really? Aren't you exhausted from work? Work's quieter now, so I can manage laundry and tidying up on my days off. Is that right? Okay, I'll take your word for it and catch up on TV, he said, walking away. I resolved to focus on household chores, compensating for the time I couldn't contribute earlier. John continued to stay occupied with his work as usual. You've been putting in so much effort. Let me take care of Molly, he said. Are you sure? You must be tired, I replied, touched by his consideration amidst my bustling around the house. Trust me, parent-child bonding is crucial, he said proudly. Molly, go brush your teeth with Daddy. I called out, and she took John's hand and headed to the bathroom. Imagining the heartwarming scene of father and daughter together, I couldn't help but smile. But when Molly emerged, I was taken aback. Molly, your face looks so red. Are you okay? Her flushed face caught my attention. Molly just glanced up at John and stayed quiet. What's wrong, Molly? Why so quiet? She probably got overheated while playing with water. Maybe she's feeling a bit dizzy, John quickly explained. Are you sure you're okay? I asked Molly repeatedly, concerned. Molly glanced at John and nodded, saying, Yeah, I'm fine. From then on, despite his busy work schedule, John took charge of giving Molly her daily bath. But Molly's face remained red after each bath. Could Molly be sick? Shouldn't we take her to the doctor? You're overreacting. Molly, you're okay, right? Nothing hurts? Yeah, I'm fine. See, Sarah, you worry too much about Molly. John laughed, brushing off my concerns. Little did I know then about my daughter's suffering. Time passed, and the next summer arrived. Swimming classes began at Molly's elementary school. Molly had always adored playing in the water since she was young, eagerly anticipating swimming lessons every year. "That's awesome, Molly. Your favorite swimming classes start today." "Yeah, they do." "Are you sure you remember how to swim after a year?" "Yeah, I think so." For some reason, Molly seemed downcast that morning. Despite eagerly anticipating summer, she didn't smile once. I thought she might be nervous about returning to the pool after a long break, but her expression hinted at something more than mere nerves. "Molly, are you all right?" "I'm fine, Mom. Don't worry," Molly said, forcing a strained smile. "Are you sure you're not pushing yourself? If you're not feeling well, I can call the school and you can stay home." "I'll be okay. You go to work, Mom." "All right, Molly. Heading to work now. Take care." "See you later, Mom." Molly smiled as she saw me off, but her smile seemed forced. "Molly will be fine. Grandma and Grandpa are there if she needs anything," I reassured myself as I returned to the office after lunch. But then I received startling news. "Sarah, it's urgent. Your daughter's school called. They said Molly fainted during swim class and has been taken to the hospital," my colleague said in a panic. "What? Molly?" I was so upset that I froze for a moment, but my boss urged me to collect myself. I hailed a taxi and rushed to the hospital. On the way, I called my husband. "Molly collapsed. Is it true? Is she okay?" "I don't know. The teacher said she suddenly fainted during swimming class." "What is the school doing about this? They have to take responsibility if something serious happens." "Now's not the time for that. I'm on my way to the hospital where they took Molly." "Okay, I'm coming there too." My usually work-focused husband sounded genuinely worried this time. When I arrived at the hospital, Molly was peacefully sleeping in her bed. Seeing her serene face, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. "I'm so relieved Molly is safe," I thought, and the tension that had gripped me suddenly made me feel lightheaded. "Are you okay?" The doctor nearby supported me, preventing me from collapsing. "Sarah, is Molly okay?" John asked anxiously. "Molly is..." I tried to respond, but my words got tangled. "She's just peacefully sleeping now. Please don't worry," the doctor calmly reassured us. "Doctor, thank you so much." I bowed my head to the doctor, tears of relief streaming down my face. However, the doctor's expression remained grave. "Doctor, is everything okay?" I asked, fearing that Molly might have a serious illness. "Well, actually," the doctor seemed hesitant to answer. "Doctor, please tell me everything," I pleaded, my heart pounding with dread that something terrible had been discovered about Molly. "Well, how is your daughter's relationship with her grandparents daily?" the doctor asked carefully. "What do you mean by that?" I couldn't immediately grasp the intention behind the doctor's roundabout questioning. "I'm asking if your daughter gets along well with her grandparents." "Yes, she does. But why do you ask?" I understood the question but was puzzled as to its relevance. An unexplainable sense of concern began to creep over me. What could have happened between Molly and her grandparents? As I struggled to respond and fell silent, John, standing behind me, spoke up with anger. "Hey, doctor, what are you implying?" His voice trembled with frustration, veins standing out on his forehead. "What's the matter with you?" Sensing something amiss with John, who seldom showed such emotion, I grew even more anxious. "Stop disrespecting my parents." "I'm not disrespecting them. I'm just trying to understand the situation." The doctor attempted to clarify. John, increasingly enraged, seemed on the verge of confronting the doctor physically, but the doctor remained composed and tried to calm him. "My parents love Molly. Please stop making baseless accusations. If you continue insulting my parents, I will take legal action." "Let's all try to stay calm." How can I be calm when my parents are being accused? Why are you asking such questions? I pressed. The doctor sighed deeply, troubled. Let me explain. The doctor then recounted the events leading to Molly's hospitalization. Molly had hyperventilated just before her swimming lesson and was brought to the hospital by ambulance, which I already knew from the school's report. However, further concerns arose. Upon Molly's arrival at the hospital, amidst her distressed breathing, she appeared to be desperately trying to communicate something. As the doctor attended to her, leaning in to hear her murmurs, he discerned her repeating apologies, saying, "I'm sorry, Grandma. I'm sorry, Grandpa," as if in a daze. The fact that she repeatedly apologized to her grandparents in such a distressing situation suggests that there must have been a significant experience. What exactly happened between your daughter and her grandparents? This question took me by surprise, as it was completely unexpected. Doctor, I don't understand what you're talking about, I said, but my gaze shifted from the doctor to my husband, who seemed even more agitated. What's with it? Look, you know something, don't you? I confronted him, sensing his strange behavior indicated he was hiding something. I don't know anything. This doctor is talking nonsense. It's impossible that my parents would do something terrible to Molly. John, who had been angry, suddenly started laughing as if trying to cover up something that shouldn't be revealed. The doctor remained calm and persisted. What I've mentioned is not nonsense. I'm merely stating the facts. Furthermore, I have not said that your parents have done something terrible to your daughter. I understand now. In that case, I will be clear. I suspect that her grandparents may have been causing her distress regularly. Therefore, we have already contacted Child Protective Services. You can't just do whatever you want, John shouted, his anger intensifying. In cases of suspicion, it is my duty as a doctor to promptly contact Child Protective Services. Perhaps our loud conversation had woken Molly as she opened her eyes and said, "Mom." "Molly, you're awake. Thank goodness," I exclaimed, rushing to her and hugging her tightly as she sat up. "You can take her home," the doctor informed us. John replied, "Of course. How can we leave her with such an irresponsible doctor? Let's go, Molly." He then grabbed our daughter's hand, trying to force her to walk. "Don't touch her!" I instinctively pulled Molly's hand away from John without thinking. The air between John and me grew tense, but my primary concern was Molly's well-being. During the taxi ride home, John continued to rant. "That doctor is full of lies. He's just trying to make my parents look bad." I couldn't take John's words seriously and remained silent. "What? Do you doubt my parents too?" "It's not that. But Molly, has Grandma been mistreating you?" "No, Mom. No one is hurting me. I'm all right." Molly's response seemed forced, clearly under the pressure of John's dominating gaze. Seeing Molly's frightened expression, I tried to guess what could have happened between her and her grandparents. Something frightening must have occurred to Molly, that she couldn't even tell me about it. The fact that the doctor felt compelled to contact Child Protective Services indicated a serious concern. However, when I questioned my in-laws about it, I knew that if they denied any wrongdoing, that would be the end of it. There was no evidence of them harassing my daughter. "Hey, are you even listening?" John's voice jolted me back to reality. "Sorry, did you say something? I've told you before, don't let anyone from Child Protective Services inside." "If they come asking around, we should let them in and prove that everything is fine if we have nothing to hide," I countered, knowing it was futile. "What if it starts rumors around the neighborhood? It could affect my career. Think before you speak." John, who had always followed the path of an elite, never faced failure from childhood through his professional life. His pride feared a bad reputation more than anything, making me wonder if his pride was more important than our daughter Molly's well-being. Should he protect his pride more than his daughter? As I pondered this, my eyes fell on the taxi's dash cam. That's right. That could be useful. I remembered a crucial fact I hadn't shared with John or the in-laws. The next day, I pretended everything was normal, submitted a leave request at work, and after spending some time at a friend's house, I waited for Molly at her school's gate. When it was time for her to come out, Molly arrived. Here. She looked surprised, but also visibly relieved to see me. Mom? What's happening? I'll explain later. We're going to take a plane. We then took a bus to the airport and flew to my hometown where my parents lived. From that night into the early morning, John called repeatedly. Frustrated by the continuous calls, I finally decided to answer. What have you done? Where did you take Molly? She's in a safe place, out of your reach, I stated. What? Don't be ridiculous. Just come back and explain everything to me properly. We're not coming back. An explanation over the phone will suffice. Then at least send Molly back to us, John yelled. I steadfastly declined. I refuse. Why? What have we ever done to you? If you don't remember, let me enlighten you. It's because you and your parents have been making Molly do things she despises every day. The anger I had suppressed exploded. I explained everything to John step by step. On the way back from the hospital, I remembered that I had installed a camera in the living room on the first floor. Unusual occurrences were captured. It was set up to monitor the elderly in-laws and Molly, alerting my smartphone immediately if anything unusual occurred. The first floor, where the in-laws lived, allowed Molly free access when John and I were not around. Shortly after we started living as a joint family, Elizabeth began forcing Molly to wash dishes and do cleaning tasks. Initially, I thought it was just Elizabeth's way of teaching her granddaughter household chores. But Elizabeth never instructed her. She just watched Molly with Michael. Molly compiled without complaints, completing the tasks as told. However, when Molly was about to go back upstairs after finishing, Elizabeth called her back, saying in a sorrowful voice, "Next, please clean the bathroom." "But I have homework." "I'm sorry, but please do as you're told. If you can't, we can't let you live here. Please do as you're told, for your own good." With that, Elizabeth grabbed Molly's wrist, seemingly trying to force her outside against her will. "Do as you're told, Molly." Elizabeth's voice was clear on the surveillance camera, which captured sound well despite slight static. "Grandpa, help me." Molly pleaded with her grandfather Michael, who did nothing to reprimand Elizabeth and merely watched silently. Faced with this unbelievable reality unfolding in the video, I was speechless. The harassment from the grandparents towards Molly appeared to continue daily when I was not at home. I couldn't believe that they were doing such things behind my back. I kept the surveillance camera a secret, but shared with John the harassment Molly faced from his parents, misinterpreting something. John angrily retorted, "Molly, after all the discipline, she still talked. Wasn't it enough? So you started everything, didn't you?" "What are you talking about?" "I mentioned your parents' actions, but I never said you were involved." "You tricked me. That's despicable." "Despicable? Who's the one who's been doing terrible things to our elementary school daughter?" I remembered the days when John insisted on giving Molly showers. "I know what you were doing during Molly's shower." I didn't have solid proof, but decided to confront him. "It's education. She didn't want to study anymore, and she seemed satisfied with her test score, so I thought I'd give her a little re-education." "Re-education? How can you even say that? Molly is terrified. I only told Molly she couldn't get out of the shower until she correctly answered my questions." John confessed his mistake. "You were mad when the doctor at the hospital asked about Molly's relationship with her grandparents, weren't you? But that wasn't to protect your parents. You were afraid of being caught for forcing your unwilling parents to do it. That's also why you refused to let Child Protective Services intervene." The surveillance footage clearly recorded John threatening his parents. The in-laws weren't willingly making Molly do things she disliked. Molly's face was always red because he wouldn't let her out of the shower for a long time. The shower experience became traumatic for her. Then, on the day there was a swimming class at school, Molly was traumatized again the moment she tried to enter the pool, triggering a panic attack. It's your fault she can no longer enjoy the pool she loves. So what? You don't understand my feelings. I don't want Molly to go through what I did as a child. My father was a top executive, and my mother was a renowned educator locally, but I was always scorned if my grades dropped even slightly, John began. That's why I was strict with Molly, to spare her from feeling miserable ever again. That's what I believe parental discipline is. With those words, John chuckled with a sinister tone. I felt a surge of triumph inside. When my father had to retire due to his chronic illness and came to me for financial help, I turned the tables on them. I told my parents I'd support them financially, but in return, they had to discipline Molly strictly. That was the condition under which I agreed to live with them. I was horrified to learn John's true twisted feelings. I recorded this phone call, and that's not all. The surveillance camera has also captured how you threatened your parents, both their actions and voices. I will use this evidence to protect her. You're finished. Hey, wait a minute, we can talk this through. John panicked at the end, but I had nothing more to say. I hung up the phone and blocked his number. I went to the police and child services with footage from the surveillance camera, the recording of the call, and the medical report I obtained from the hospital. This is terrible. The video and audio are clear evidence, assured the responding police officer, promising immediate action. Later, I was shocked by new revelations from Molly. When I asked her why she didn't confide in me sooner, Molly, in tears, said, "Because Dad threatened that if I didn't do as he said, he would put you through the same ordeal." I didn't want you to get hurt, Mom. John, her biological father, had been threatening her all this time. To protect me, she had been silently enduring fear and anxiety, even though she was just a child. She was trying to protect me, her mother, when she should have been the one protected. I hadn't noticed the pain my daughter was going through. Was I even a good mother? Ashamed of myself, I hugged my sobbing daughter tightly. "I'm sorry, Molly, it's all my fault." "It's not your fault, Mom. You saved me." Feeling her warmth, I couldn't stop my tears. "Of course I'm on your side, Molly. No matter what happens, I won't leave you alone. I love you so much, and I will always protect you." I vowed in my heart never to let her experience sadness again. Ultimately, the medical report and recorded phone calls were crucial, leading to John's arrest for criminal injury. However, the in-laws received leniency due to extenuating circumstances. Some time passed after that incident. The gaunt faces of my in-laws, Michael and Elizabeth, appeared at my parents' house. "I'm so sorry, Sarah and Molly. It's too late for us to apologize now, but we are truly sorry. We knew it was wrong, but we just couldn't refuse his demands. We are such terrible grandparents." "Please lift your heads, Michael, Elizabeth," I said gently. "From the videos, it's clear you were coerced by John into mistreating Molly." Though I felt inclined to blame my in-laws, I knew that blaming them wouldn't change anything. Michael apologized deeply. Perhaps he understood my feelings. He had a chronic illness that should have hurt his legs, but he stood upright with his face contorted. "Even though we were threatened, the fact that we did something terrible to our dear granddaughter is true. We don't expect forgiveness, but we just wanted to apologize," they said, their eyes turning to Sarah and Molly. "Maybe in the end, we just wanted to ease our own feelings. Grandpa, look at this big potato we harvested." "Wow, that's a big one, Molly. How about we make some potato salad with your mom tonight?" "Okay, we'll do that." Living with Molly, my parents seemed to have rejuvenated both in spirit and appearance. Just as Molly tried to protect me, I want to protect her with all my might from now on. Watching Molly's carefree smile, I felt